Hey everybody, welcome in, welcome in. This is Julie Maxim, the Main Stamper. It is Monday and I am here for my live card making demonstration. On Mondays I come onto my Facebook page, the Main Stamper, and I do about a 30-minute card making tutorial. So it gives you some ideas on how to use some of the products that you have at home, whether you have the same products or something different, because you can always swap out something that you have for something that you're watching me do. And I always give out some handy tips and tricks along the way too that are useful in just about any project that you're going to take on. So today's card, we are featuring the Ranunculus Romance Bundle. So I'm trying to get this in here so you can see it. We have vellum again. I think I did vellum last week too. So I'm kind of on a vellum run here. But vellum can be hard to work with, and I'm going to give you some ideas tonight as I put my card together that might be helpful for you. Make sure you're saying hi as you jump on. I like to see who's watching me, joining me in the craft room. I see Jess and Ginny. Yes, hooray for Monday, right? We get together and do a little stamping. I love it. So we are going to be using again the Ranunculus Romance Bundle. It is in the spring catalog, and I'm going to show you some parts and pieces, and we're incorporating a few different suite options from another suite into this card tonight. So let's get over there and we'll start talking about all of the good products. Okay, so Ranunculus Romance. Of course, we have a stamp set. This is the Cling, the red rubber stamp set. And I am a fan of this. If you like the very Versailles, if you like the Victorian kind of stamp set, this might be one that you like. I adore anything that has a postmark on it, and this is obviously the Eiffel Tower. This right here is really fantastic because it's a stamp that you can barely read, but you can read a little bit. At the top of this, it says Silver Plate Jewelry, 1832, and it's like an old graph or a chart where they've got August 29th, September 25th, and October 8th, and they've got Scotch pearls written here. They've got a bunch of handwriting. It's hard to read all of it, but it looks really awesome on the card because it's a great background feature, whether you stamp it full strength or if you want to stamp it off a little bit. Of course, the star feature here is our ranunculus flower, right? So this beautiful ranunculus flower. And then we've got this almost like a hollyhock looking flower over here too. This will come as a bundle through the end of May. These are the ranunculus dies. So I haven't even played with all of them yet. We're going to be using this one today to cut out our ranunculus flower here that we're going to be stamping later on, so you can see it here. And there are, you can also cut out this stamp, and then we've got more of the outlines. We've got a little sentiment piece here, but I love the leaf. I love this little fancy flourish here. So these are the dies that come with it. The dies and the stamp set, when you get them together, are 10% off if you do the bundle price. But the bundle goes away with the end of this mini catalog. So these two items will be available in the new catalog starting in May, but the bundle price is going to go away. So that is just something to keep in mind. All right, so let's see what else we got here today. Now I did kind of play a little bit with changing it up a little bit, right? So here's the catalog. We're on page 54 of the January to June mini, and here's the card that I cased or copied, and here's my card. So you can kind of see maybe a little bit of a difference here. They actually used some of these Memories and More cards and envelopes. So this is what you get in the Memories and More, right? So you get two different sizes. You get the little minis, which has this great paper, and then you also get the bigger blue stripy ones with these fantastic envelopes, right? So they actually doctored up one of these minis and created their card. I wanted to put mine on a regular white card base, so I went in a little bit of a different direction. But here are some samples. Look at this one from my friend Jess, this little bird. I love this card so much. So thank you, Jess, again. I love your card. And this is one that we made in a class, I think in January. I did an in-person class. So this is the size of the cards that are going to come in this Memories and More card pack. So I just wanted to kind of show those off a little bit, show some samples with them because I love them. There's also the Heart and Home Memories and More card pack. Again, it's got some of this paper. You can see the same tones coming through here. And these are all options you can use on card fronts too, so that's something a little bit different. And the Heart and Home suite is actually on page 61. 60, 61, actually we're going to go to 59, 59, 58. So it's going to show you doilies, it's going to show you paper. These are the envelopes, Memories and More card pack. So I took advantage of the paper for my card today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the paper here. So you're going to see, and these are 2 different sheets, and we're keeping our stripes going in the portrait position here on our card. But this is a smaller width stripe on the back of the green paper. And this is a wider stripe. And this one's on the back of like a flowery paper. So they're actually in this pack some different papers. And of course they can go in either direction, right? You can go upright, you can go sideways. I love this, the wood grain look here. So this is from this paper pack. And that is where I got my my card front here for my card, because I did switch it up a little bit from the original. So just wanted to explain to you where some of those parts and pieces came from. Now this is going to be a little bit interactive tonight, because I would like to give you the option of petal pink, whisper white, or smoky slate. So I want to make another card tonight when I'm doing this live with you, and I want to put this on a different card base. So do you guys think we should go smoky slate? Do you think we should go petal pink? Do you think we should keep it on white? So let me know in your comments which of these you like, and then when we get to that point where I have to actually attach this to a card base, I'm going to look through your comments real quick and see which one of these 3 colors do you guys like the best. So we're doing a little bit of interaction tonight, which is kind of fun. All right, let's get to our actual card now. So again, I've got this piece of designer series paper. I cut it 4 by 5 1/4, and I've got the stripes going this way, just like so. So it's going to go onto our card base, either white, petal pink, smoky slate. See, you still have decisions. You got time to think about it. So we're going to set this aside. We're actually going to stamp the vellum first. So it's just a piece of 3 by 4 vellum, and we're going to bring in petal pink ink and cinnamon cider ink. When I looked this card up for the directions, I was really surprised by some of the things that they suggested. I really thought most of this card was all cinnamon cider, and it's really not. So we've got a little bit of petal pink here. So I'm taking this fun stamp, and I'm just going to stamp it in a few different places on my vellum. I'm not stamping it everywhere. I'm going to leave some spots not covered, and I don't know how well this is, that you can see this on here or not. But I wanted to stamp one on this white paper just so you can kind of see what this would look like if you just stamped it, because it's really hard to see on the vellum. All right, so that was in the petal pink. And next we're going to take this little postage stamp, and we're going to stamp this on a couple times. Now this one is in cinnamon cider, so this is a darker color. I think we're going to want one up over here, and we're going to put one down here. And I adore this look. So I'm not sure if you can see this. You probably can't even see this at all. I'm trying to look at my camera here a little bit. Now, to keep in mind that when you stamp on vellum, it's going to be wet for a little bit. So I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. And I'm going to show you my trick to make sure it's dry. You could definitely grab out your heat tool if you wanted to and heat set that, but we don't have to necessarily do that. I'm going to bring in a scrap of white and our Ranunculus stamp. Now we're going to be coloring this with a Stampin' Blends, so we need to use the Memento ink. The Memento ink is a water-based ink, and I'm putting the ink on while my stamp is facing up, because it's a lot easier than putting it down into the stamp. And I wanted to point out that I'm using this block for the Ranunculus stamp. It could have gone on this block as well, so you can use different blocks. I prefer a wider block to a longer block. I really don't use this long one very much. I prefer a wider block. I think it's just easier to work with than the really long one. So here is our stamp. Really pretty. I mean, if you just kept that black and white, that would be really pretty too, right? And of course, first thing you think of when you see black and white is like, oh, it could be for a sympathy card, but it doesn't have to be. I think it's really gorgeous just the way that it is. We are going to color this in, and I'm bringing in my Stampin' Blends. And when I looked at the sample in the catalog, I really thought that all of these colors right here were cinnamon cider. I thought they just used cinnamon cider blends, called it a day, but I was completely wrong. No cinnamon cider in this one at all. We're actually going to use the dark petal pink. I put the light one away. We're not using the light one. And we're using Calypso Coral, both the light and the dark. And then for the leaves, we are doing the Just Jade. Now, Just Jade is a color that is retiring, so this one will be gone soon. I think that these blends may be on clearance. They're on the retiring list for sure. They might be on sale. We're going to start with our flowers though, and I'm going to start with the dark petal pink. I'm going to always take the small end of the brush here because it's just easier. And I'm just going to really quickly put on some color here. And I'm not being too particular because I'm going to go over it with some other colors as well. So these 3 little flowers right here are all getting a little splash of the dark petal pink. And these things they color so nicely. I know some people are like, I am not the biggest color in fan, but these do a really nice job. So here is just the petal pink on that. So just a little bit of color. We're going to next bring in our dark Calypso Coral. Again, I'm going to look for the small end. It's just easier to work with a small end. And I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to kind of come up and just kind of sweep this in up here a little bit. And then on this one, I'm also going to start at the bottom. And I'm going to kind of wrap this one around a little bit as well. So I'm putting plenty on the bottom. This is where you want to see the darker colors. And then this one, I'm definitely doing the bottom and kind of coming in on this tighter bud here. So I'm going to lift this up a little bit. I know my camera doesn't like zone in super well, but I hope that you can see that there's definitely 2 different colors of ink there. And right now they're so different that you can definitely see where you started and stopped. So I'm going to bring in the light Calypso Coral now. And this time I'm just going to scribble right over top of the very darkest ink that I put on. I'm really not going too far up and around anywhere else, just the outside edges of this dark. And I'm kind of, this is the blending part. So I'm blending this so that it kind of softens my edges that were super dark, but it still leaves that really, really light color at the top. So it kind of gives you a trifecta color of, and I don't know, again, if you can see that it's much more blended here, but definitely you can see the highs and lows where it's darker and it's a little bit lighter. I just think that's really delicate and pretty. I'm just going to add a little bit more on the top here. This one looked a little light up there. There we go. All right, and that was coloring in the flowers, like pretty quick and easy, right? Now for the leaves and the stems, I'm going to start with my lighter color here. This again is the Just Jade, and I'm just going to very carefully kind of come down my stems, just kind of lightly. And this ink will run a little bit, so you got to be careful with that. And then I'm just going to color in some of the leaves here, just kind of give them a little touch of color. So again, not a lot of effort here, right? Just a little bit right here. Oh, I missed the stem right here. Pretty sure on my first card I missed a stem too. All right, so there is the first set of the light green, and now I'm just going to add a little bit. Make sure that's closed. It didn't sound like it closed. You want to make sure you cover your caps tightly. These are alcohol markers, and they will dry out if they're not covered well and secured. And then I'm going to just bring in the dark, and I'm just going to just add a little bit of dark here and there. And this is going to give my leaves kind of a two-tone look. Just kind of touch them up here and there as we go. And there you go. That's it. It's all colored in. It was that simple. So people that, you know, out there that are like me, that are like, man, I really don't like coloring that much. This one was not a hard one to do. I hope you agree. Not too hard. And it is really pretty when we're all said and done. Now I'm going to bring in my mini boss. Okay, so this is the mini, and I bought this so that I could try to use it here under my camera because I feel like it's a little bit smaller and the profile is a little bit nicer. This is a little tricky to use though, I'm going to say. It comes with plates, so we've got a 1 and a 3, and then we've got 2 2s. So this is the base plate 1. So if you're going to do an embossing folder, you would use 1 and 3 if you have the mini. We're not doing embossing folders, so I'm going to put that away. But we are using die cutting, so we're going to use both of my 2 plates. So you can see I have 2 of these 2 plates here. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 1 plate down on the bottom. I'm going to put my stamped image here, and I have to find my dies. Okay, so here's my flower die right here. I'm going to line that up. Now this is where it's going to get really tricky. On the normal cutting machines, you usually line your plates up pretty straight, but on this one, we're actually going to put our plate so that the top plate is over top. So you can see that it's not in a straight line. You have to actually kind of put them a little bit jostled into the position here. And then sometimes I still have a hard time getting this to go through. There we go. Now it's going. So it's a harder transition with this little mini machine to get them started through. So it's definitely a learning curve if you have like the bigger machine. And this one didn't cut out quite as nicely as my first one did. So you can see that I've got, it's really close to the edges here, and it's much farther away here. So I'm going to doctor this up really quick, and I'm just going to trim a little bit just to get rid of some of this extra white. Now, normally I'd probably go through and just restamp. I probably should have die cut this before I colored it all in. These are all different options that you have. But again, hey, we're working live here. We're just going to go on the fly here and try that out. Maybe I'll cut a little bit off of here. It'll all be beautiful in the end. So there, that's a little bit better that way. So it doesn't quite look as, you know, as funny as it was kind of off-centered just a little bit. So this was my first play today with this mini boss. I have to say it's definitely different. I really like my big one the most. I have to use this one probably a little bit more to get used to it and make sure that I really, really like it. All right, we're gonna bring in, back in my scrap paper, and our vellum. So remember we stamped this earlier and it had like a little bit of a sheen. It was very wet. So to make sure that it's dry, I'm actually going to put it upside down on my paper and just kind of rub the back of it while it's all, you know, one nice spot. And I'm going to pick this up and see that it did transfer some ink. So it might be hard to see, but it definitely transferred ink. So that means that it got rid of the excess ink here, so that if I touch it now, it probably shouldn't smear. I'm not going to say it won't, but it's going to be less likely to smear because we just rubbed off some of that ink onto paper. Another thing you could do is get out your heat tool and heat set this so that the ink dries on here faster. But the ink does take a little bit longer to dry on the vellum, unless you're using a StazOn ink, and that usually has no problem at all. All right, we have a little bit more to do here. We're going to bring in a scrap of Petal Pink and Calypso Coral ink. And I've got the stamp that says Just Because. And I didn't measure this paper at all. This is really a scrap. I think I want to try that one more time. Let's try it one more time just because it's a little crooked. Oh my gosh. Okay, scrap. See, I have a huge scrap here. We're going to keep going here. We might be here a while tonight. You guys thought this would be a quick and easy card. All right, there we go. I am happy with this Just Because. And when I use it on my card, I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to snip it, and I might trim it up a little bit more again. And sometimes it's nice to just not be so fussy about what is the measurement on everything. So that's my scrap. We're good there. We're good with that guy. And now let's talk about the doilies a little bit here. So these are the Heart and Home doilies, and they come in, well, it lists 3 colors. Technically they come in 4 colors, right? You've got Misty Moonlight, which is retiring in color. You've got, this is Basic Gray, and which is our neutral. This is the Cinnamon Cider, also a retiring in color. These are the colors that it lists, but it doesn't list white. Check it out, you guys. White doilies. If you don't like these colors and you're hoping for a white doily, you just flip this over. You can stamp on these, you could sponge these, you could emboss on these. You also have white doilies, which is such a cool thing to have. We are using a little piece of the Cinnamon Cider, so you can see it here in the corner of my card. And I'm just going to trim off. So my first card, I trimmed off this section up here for my card. Now I'm going to trim off this section down here, and we're going to be using this for the card that we're working with next. And I'm going to be trimming this up a little bit more. So I've got a few little extra scraps here, and this is still usable on a card, or maybe even this, depending on how I feel about that as I do something else. So you always save those scraps. They're probably good for something. And we're going to do a little bit of assembly now. But before any of this goes on the card front, we have some things to do. So here's our pretty ranunculus that we die cut in an unusual way today. Oh, I meant to also mention, this is the back. This is what happens when you use the Stampin' blends. It has the ability to bleed through the paper, so you always want to make sure you have something that you're coloring on so you don't ruin your work surface. But they're such deep inks that they will go through to the other side. So while I've got this flipped over again, I'm using mini dimensionals. And I'm just going to put a whole bunch on here. You guys are going to think I'm like crazy today because normally I'm like very frugal with my dimensionals, but let's see if that's going to work. Yeah, we're going to go with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I used 6 on my first sample, and I was like, whoa, that might be too many. So these are just the minis. So I'm just going to take off the sticky adhesive backing here. The minis seem to be a little bit harder to work with because they're so tiny, but they do fit in small areas like this one right here. And we are going to put this right here on our vellum, right about here. So you can see that that's on our vellum. If I hold this over here, you're going to be able to see that a little bit better maybe. It's really pretty. All right, so we've got that on there. Now we're going to work with our little scrap of doily, and we want the doily to come just about to the leaf here. So the edge of the doily to this leaf, and it's going to come across, and then our just because is going to come over here. I just want to make sure I don't need to trim my doily down the width wise, and I do like that, just like that. So I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of the doily and then tuck it onto the vellum. So I'm just going to add a few dots here and there, wherever I can get a little bit of glue on here on my doily. And remember, this little spot right here is actually raised up because we put this on with dimensionals. So I can sneak my doily up and in, and just tucking in the edge of my doily with the edge of my leaf over here. And that looks pretty good. Oh, it's so slippery with the glue on it, you guys. As I'm moving and wiggling it all around, right? Okay, so that's pretty square, I think, right there. I think I have glue seeping out my doily too, which is not fun. All right, so on the back, you're going to see that we have extra doily hanging out. So again, I'm just going to bring in my scissors, and I'm going to hand cut right up through there. And when we flip it over, it looks pretty good, right? Now our just because is going to go on with some dimensionals too. So I'm going to flip this over. I need 2 of them. I want one here on the just because side. So just where it says just, I flipped it over and I've got one here. And the other one I found easiest to line up on the actual doily where I want this to go. So this one will cover this side and this one will cover over here, and then when I put them on, they'll each have a nice little dimensional, and I'm not trying to figure out how it's bumping into my leaves and it doesn't sit flat because the leaves are a different shape. So we're just going to put this on here right about so. I think that's pretty good, right? Okay, so I've got the dimensional here, I've got a dimensional here, so that's holding that up really nicely. And again, on the back, I've got a little bit of overlap. So I'm going to, doily is stuck to my scissors. Come up here and trim. And there we go, just because. So how pretty is that? I love this. Now, the reason that I put all of this on here right now is so that I know where to put tape on the back of my vellum before I put it on my designer series paper. So this might all make sense in about just 1 more minute. So I've got my tear and tape because this is a really nice secure tape, like really secure tape. So on the back of this, I can see here's my doily, here's my die cut ranunculus, and I'm going to put the tape right across the doily and running right up and down the ranunculus die cut, just like this, so I can see it from the back. And when I flip it over, as I adhere this, the adhesive is not anywhere on any of the vellum, so it's not going to interfere with the way that it sits on this piece of paper. So that is why we put all of the things on the vellum first. And see if I can get my tear and tape off of here. It's a little trickier on vellum. It's the slick paper. Okay, so there's one. And just get that up and underneath, and here's the second one right here. So I got the tear and tape ready to go, and it's going to come right on here. And I like to keep it over a little bit more toward the left. Now I'm just going to push down a little bit on my flower and a little bit on my doily, because on the back of that, that's where I had the tape. So now it's on, so you can see the vellum is still loose here, it's still loose here, but it's really secured to this. It's not going to fall off. It's a perfect way to adhere vellum. Obviously you're covering it up, but sometimes it's hard to know where to put the vellum on your card. Definitely. Okay, so we're coming down to the end here. There's not a lot left. So decision time. I'm going to check over on Facebook here in just a minute. We have 3 card bases. I'm going to show you again real quick. The white card base, the petal pink card base, or the smoky slate card base. Which one do you think? Obviously I have the white one done already. I'm just trying to decide. I want to change it up, and I'm not sure what color. So while you guys are commenting on that, I'm going to let you comment because I know Facebook has a little bit of a lag. We're going to bring in our brushed brass butterflies. Now these are going to be our embellishment that we're going to add on, and I wanted to talk about these butterflies just for a second. These are really cool. They look like they would be papery or flat or something. They're actually metal. They feel like metal. It says they're brass. You know, brass-like. Let's call them brass-like because I'm sure they're not real brass, but they're actually like, when you touch them, they're metallic, which is really kind of a neat feature. So they used 3 of them. Looking for my take your pick tool here in my sample again. So I see some petal pink there in the comments today. Petal pink seems to be the winner. I'm going to put one up here. So there's 2 sizes here. There are bigger ones and smaller ones. So we've got them on here just like this, and it's very much so like the sample. Hi Isabella, Elisa, Linda, Karen. Pink, of course, pink. Karen, I love the pink too. I'm thinking pink as well. I wanted to see what you guys thought. All right, so we have those on there. The only thing that's missing is our card base. So we look how pretty that it's going to be on our petal pink, right? Oh, I love it. All right, I'm going to flip this over, and we're committing to the petal pink. So I'm just going to add some adhesive here on the back, and we're going to center this on. So again, my designer series paper is 4 by 5 1/4. It's your first matte layer size on your card front, and it goes on just beautifully like that. And here is our card. Here's petal pink, and here is the original in the white, which, I mean, both of those obviously are a little bit different from the sample in the catalog. But what do you guys think? Do you like the white better or the petal pink? Because you helped me pick out this background color. Really like how that turned out. So pretty. All right, so there we go. And it was that easy tonight. How'd we do? Half an hour. I love it. I don't practice this part of I mean, I make the card, but I don't time myself when I'm making it because it does take me some time to pull out papers, guess on the sizes, because I don't get the sizes from the catalog. I just guesstimate. So I'm measuring and I'm cutting, and then I'm maybe recutting something because I'm like, no, it looks like it should be smaller or bigger or whatever. So it takes me some time, and I'm also digging through my embellishments because they're not organized, and I'm like, I know I have them somewhere, so I'm looking through different boxes. So I don't actually time myself when I put the card together. So when I come on here live and do this in a half hour, I'm always so excited that it can be done in a half hour. And I also do a little bit of talking, right, beginning and end. So that is our card today. And Ginny, yes, I should probably make a 3rd card and use the gray background. Maybe that's what I will do. Maybe I'll do that next. And then maybe that'll be my color swap on Wednesday on Positive Paper Crafters. I hadn't really thought about it. I definitely could play with some different colors because I love colors. You guys know I love colors. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this fun card tonight. If you're watching replay, let me know too. I appreciate all of your comments and all of your feedback as we go along. And thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me here on my Make It Monday video. I will be back next Monday with another card. And of course, everyone have a wonderful, blessed Easter. I will see you next week. And until then, stay inspired, create something beautiful, and share the love. Bye.